Hey, Dragon Chaser Kev. A little bit late with the rest of 1994's video game releases for the Super NES and the Sega Genesis, Game Gear, and Game Boy. So let's just jump into what I have to finish up. Bebe's Kids on the Super NES is a side-scrolling beat-em-up video game developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Motown Games Paramount Interactive for the Super NES, released in 1994. It is based on the 1992 film of the same name, and it has very similar reviews because both the film and the game have mostly unfavorable critical reviews. I remember maybe seeing commercials for this back when it came out. I mean the movie, not the game. I know a little bit of this game, I think, from just seeing a review or seeing it mentioned in some YouTube videos. And like it said in the Wikipedia article, unfavorable. This is a game to pass. So let's just get on to the next one. Well, let's look at the prices first. Next, on the Super Nintendo, we have Mega Man Soccer. It is, of course, a soccer game for the Super NES. The game is based on the original Mega Man series of action platform games. Mega Man Soccer was released in Japan on February 17th, 1994, and in North America in March of the same year. Well, the Wikipedia article says Mega Man Soccer was released in March. So why does it say in the list of Super NES games that it was released in April? Anyway, Mega Man Soccer released in March or April of 1994. It's a Mega Man Soccer game. The reviews are kinda low to medium for it. And let's check out the prices for Mega Man. I am using pricecharting.com, I believe it is. Rocko's Modern Life, Spunky's Dangerous Day, released in April of 1994 for the Super Nintendo. Rocko's Modern Life, Spunky's Dangerous Day is a puzzle platform game based on the Nickelodeon series Rocko's Modern Life, 1993 to 1996, and is the first project of Viacom New Media, the interactive entertainment software division of Viacom International, which owned Nickelodeon. The player acts as the titular character, guiding his dog Spunky to a golden fire hydrant. To do this, he alters the level environment and fights enemies. Okay, well, again, I don't believe I ever watched the show. Reviews for this game are, I'm looking at B+, 8 out of 10, 13 out of 20, 80%, 18 out of 20 from GamePro, that's pretty high, 113 out of 150 for GameFan. So it looks like the reviews are okay, a little bit above average for Rocko's Modern Life. Let's look at the prices for Rocko's Modern Life. And again, I'm using pricecharting.com. I don't think I mentioned that in my first video.
Frisbee, Spunky. Catch, Spunky. Oh, no. Where you going?
Next, on the Super NES, we have SOS, 1993 video game. Well, I'm looking at the Super Nintendo release, which came out, I'm hoping, in April of 94. That's what it says. Oh, it came out on the Famicom, Super Famicom, in 93. SOS, known as Septentrion, is a survival adventure video game developed by Human Entertainment and published in 1994 by Victoke for the Super NES. A sequel to the game was later released in Japan for the PlayStation, known as Septentrion, Out of the Blue. Mostly based on the 1969 book and 1972 film, The Poseidon Adventure, the game is set on September 13th, 1921, and the players must escape the ship Lady Crethania, which is hit by a gigantic wave and capsizes off the coast of Humbleton, England. Okay, that sounds like a very interesting premise for a Super NES game. Survival adventure. It shows a screenshot here. I'll get some footage and put it up because I haven't played these games. And it looks kind of like a platformer from this one screen, but probably not quite a platformer. The game received average reviews upon release. GamePro gave the game a mixed review, saying the premise is compelling but marred by too many poorly designed segments. And I'm looking at a bunch of reviews, 81%, 70%, 70%, 36 out of 50, which would be 72%, 32 out of 40, which would be 32 out of 40. Well, what would that be in a percentage? I can do the math here quick for you, I think. Like 74, something like that. And Nintendo Power gave it 3.3 out of 5. So, pretty much, it got pretty good reviews. Let's look at the price and move on to the next game. Super Goal 2. Known in Japan as Takeda Nobuhiro New Super Cup Soccer, is a video game published by Jaleco for the Super NES, Super Famicom consoles. It's a soccer game. Doesn't even give you any reviews for it. That's all you need to know. It's a soccer game. Next on the Super NES, released in April of 1994, we have Time Tracks, developed by Malibu Interactive and published by Malibu Games for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, is based on the television series of the same name, which aired from 1993 to 1994. The story follows Police Captain Lambert as he tries to stop criminal fugitives from changing history and gaining control of the future with aid from his supercomputer assistant. The player controls Lambert across 8 levels, apprehending enemies. And that's as far as I need to go. This came out in 94. I guess the show aired 93, 94, so the show was still current. I think I recall the name Time Tracks, but I wasn't watching this show. And I wasn't playing this game. Reviews for this game: 87, 89, 62, 80. 4.2 out of 5. Well, 4.25 out of 5. So that's 8.5 out of 10. 72, 84, 87, 79. Pretty decent reviews. So, reception. Garnered generally favorable reviews. Alright, let's look at what the price is and some video footage of the game. And I tried to put in the first video little labels on where I got the video footage from, which YouTube site, but I'm doing this as quick as I can and blah blah blah, so credit to whoever footage I use. Credit to whoever it is who owns the footage which I use. I'm sorry, thanks. Check out the price. And it looks like we have 2 competing RPG series to end off April on the Super NES. These would be the ones that probably would interest me the most, because none of the other ones have so far, although the other ones have got fairly good reviews. That SOS sounded fairly compelling. I know very little about these 2 RPG series that are coming up, other than what I've watched, and well, let's talk about this one first. Ultima 6, The False Prophet. Originally released in 1990, is the 6th part of the role-playing video game series of Ultima, a very popular video game series which I've never played. It is the 3rd and final game in the Age of Enlightenment trilogy. Ultima 6 sees the player return to Britannia at war with a race of gargoyles from another land, struggling to stop a prophecy from ending their race. The player must help defend Britannia against these gargoyles, and ultimately discover the secret upon both lands of both lands and its people. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a PC game, yeah, a DOS game, and then it was ported to various other things. And I will just scan down here and see if it tells me too much about it. Dragon gave the MS-DOS version 5 out of 5 stars, but only 3 out of 5 stars for the Super NES version. So, as expected, the Super NES port wasn't as good as the PC original from a number of years earlier, not that many years earlier. And yeah, different interface, probably things had to be changed a bit and maybe a little clunkier, maybe a little dated, and PC games seldom feel as good on consoles, especially at the time, I think. So let's look at the prices and some video footage of the game. And the last April 1994 release for the Super NES is Wizardry 5: Heart of the Maelstrom. Wizardry 5: Heart of the Maelstrom is the 5th scenario in the Wizardry series of role-playing video games published in 1988 by Surtech for the Commodore 64, Apple II, and IBM PC compatibles. I had a 386 compatible, leading edge 386. A port of this game was then made for the Super Famicom and FM Towns, developed and published by ASCII Entertainment in Japan. Wizardry 5 was released in the US for the Super NES by Capcom in 1993. And again, if it was released in 93, why am I doing it in April 1994? Okay, well, I don't know. The Wikipedia article says for the Super NES in 1993, which doesn't make sense because every other site, including the Wikipedia list of Super Famicom games, has it in April 94. So I don't know when it was released. We're looking at it for 1994 and April. And if that is the case, it is already a 6-year-old PC game at that point. The one little review it has here for the NES version from GamePro says it's an improvement from previous Wizardry games, but at the time is quite dated compared to the RPG offerings on the Super Nintendo. This is the only game series I have a little bit of experience with. Just recently, not too long ago, I watched a great sort of documentary video on Wizardry, and so I tried Wizardry 1 for the Super NES and quite like it. Everything in the video was sort of true. It is a very tough and unforgiving game, but I can see where it inspired Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior, which is my favorite franchise, video game series, and so I quite like it. I only got so far into it, I think kind of halfway through level 3 or something, or maybe just to level 4, and I'm playing it very safely and doing quite well. I did die right off the bat, and luckily revived my character, and then I went quite far and then died again, kind of going into the next level, and a party or of something came up and they had 1-kill hits and wiped out a couple of my characters, and I went back to revive them, and I think I was lucky enough to have them revived the second time and had enough money to do it. I'm not too sure. Anyway, So this game, I would have had some interest in it, and probably Ultima, I don't know. But it was kind of outdated. Still, I'm impressed that it was ported to the Super Famicom. Not that impressed, they're big Wizardry fans over there, but I'm really impressed that it came out in the US. I guess they figured it was an RPG, and RPGs were kind of doing well on the Super Nintendo at the time. I'm very upset that we never got Dragon Quest 5 and 6, especially 5, as I think it's the best game in the series. I remember an article in like Nintendo Power saying, oh, it's being worked on, or it's being released, and it's gonna be coming out in America, but it never did. I believe Enix of America closed. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's look at some video footage and the price. Let's look at some video footage and prices, and that wraps it up for April releases 1994 for the SNES. But we do have a couple of Genesis games. Hey, well, I guess I forgot Super Metroid. And we can't forget Super Metroid, 1994 action-adventure game, developed by Nintendo and Intelligent Systems, published by Nintendo for the Super NES, the third installment in the Metroid series, following the events of the Game Boy game Metroid 2 Return of Samus, 1991. Players control bounty hunter Samus Aran, who travels to planet Zebes to retrieve an infant Metroid creature stolen by the space pirate leader Ridley. Okay, I've only played the first Metroid, and everyone loves Super Metroid and the other Metroid games. This game has great reviews. We'll look at the price and a little bit of footage from it, but it's probably one I should check out. Okay, Sega Genesis games, we only have two of them. Let's look at them quickly. Subterranea, 1994, multi-directional shooter developed by Danish studio Zyrinx and published by Sega for the Mega Drive Genesis. The game takes place in the future, where a deep space mining colony has been invaded by an unknown alien race. The player assumes the role of a lone pilot who must defeat the alien forces and rescue the trapped miners. During the course of the game, the player controls a rotatable craft with thrusters that is constantly subject to gravity and the craft's inertia. Using the ship's rotate and thrust capabilities, the player must aim, shoot, dodge, and carefully maneuver their way through the hazardous landscape while constantly taking gravity and refueling needs into account. Wow. Okay, from that, it sounds like a very interesting game. And a Danish studio? Let's read more about this. Anyway, release, again it says for North America, March 94, and Europe, April 94. So, we're just going to look at it here. Today, development. First game developed by Zyrinx, a small studio formed by people who had been active in the demo scene during the late 80s and early 90s. Most of them were prominent members of the demo groups, Cryonics and The Silence. Their 1991 Amiga demo Hardwired shares many of the visual effects and styles later used in their Mega Drive games Subterranea and Red Zone. Despite the game's title screen, the credits implying 1993 release, Subterranea was released in 1994. Upon its release, it gained a reputation as an overly difficult game and suffered from poor sales. In a 2005 interview with Sega 16, Sega of America producer Tony Van commented on the matter, saying, "I personally could finish the game, and I'm not anywhere near as good as most gamers, so I think it got a bad rap. A few people were put off by it, and the rest just agreed without trying it. It was one of the worst-selling games Sega of America ever released, which surprised me. Gamers usually love a challenge." In the May 1994 issue of Mega, editor Andy Dyer criticized Sega of Europe for not giving a high-quality game enough attention, stating that not only did Subterranea arrive pretty much totally unannounced, but Sega seemed to have a sense of complete apathy when promoting the game. On the other hand, Sega of America held a Subterranea contest between April and July 1994. Participants were tasked with playing the game on the hardest difficulty setting and taking a picture of the victory screen after defeating the final boss. The prizes included all paid weekends in New York and Los Angeles to attend the Marvel Mega Tour, VIP tours of the Marvel headquarters, Sega Genesis, CDX Systems, 3 games, Gunstar Heroes, Ranger X, and Thunder Force 4, limited edition comic books, Ashcan, blah 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 blah. Subterranea was met with positive reviews. Graphically, the game was described as excellent, with nicely constructed cavern backdrops and stunningly smooth parallax. Many noted the game's impressive opening scene and physics, while GamePro particularly praised the fluid animation and sharp sprites. According to Edge, some of the sprites are very impressive, especially the huge skull on level 2, and no matter how much is happening on screen, there's never any slowdown. However, some felt that there was nothing technically groundbreaking, and that the game could have a bit more variety in its scenery. The soundtrack was described as superb, featuring pseudo-industrial style and classy tunes that added a heap of atmosphere. So yeah, it sounds like it got lots of great reviews. 80s, 90s, 70s, 90s, 90s, 80s, 90s, 80s, 90s. Looks like the reviews are pretty good. So lots of good reviews, but per sales, I don't know. Let's look at some footage for this game and the price. And then we have one more game. Well, again, this next game is showing in the list as being released in April 94, but then in the Wikipedia page as not being released, and upon a little bit more research, not released in April. So I'm not going to cover it. Okay, thanks for watching. It's kind of fun looking at video games that were released 30 years ago. Many of them I never played and never will play. But every now and then, maybe we'll stumble on one and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I've seen this and it looks good and I've heard about it enough. I'm going to give it a try. That's very unlikely, but who knows. I do like trying. Almost all the games I play, if I do play a game, it's usually an old one. So, right now I have a series where I'm trying to play all the NES games. Not finish them or even get very far. Just sit down and play them for 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Record some footage and see what I think of the game in that time. If I can give it a meh. I'm not going to overly critically review it. I'm just going to give you a quick thought on it. I have those coming out. My Nintendo series, and just my channel is a hodgepodge. If you subscribe and watch it for a while, or if you watch it for a bit, you'll get to see what my channel is about. Anyway, thanks for watching. New in the 90s.